Hi guys, welcome to my channel, and if you haven't hit subscribe already, please do so you can keep up with the latest videos. So today's video is about a book review of one of my favorite books called The Mindful Athlete, which is by George Mumford. Now, if you don't know about George Mumford, please do Google it. I'm not going to spend some time talking about it. He's quite a popular author. He's one of the pioneers when it comes to mindfulness and meditation for athletes. And he's worked with the Chicago Bulls, and Phil Jackson has actually written the foreword for this book. Now, the reason why I recommend this book and why it's so amazing is because George Mumford talks about his own journey into mindfulness, which is a very interesting concept because when you learn about other people's journey when it comes to meditation and how it's changed their life, it motivates you to look at your own life in that sense and be more patient with things. So the book starts off with his own journey into meditation and mindfulness, and it's really interesting to read because it gives you insight into your own life and your own journey in some ways. Now, the book is very sport specific. The context of meditation that he's talking about is very much about the sport. And mainly he talks about basketball and basketball players because he used to be an athlete himself, and he mainly worked with the Chicago Bulls. Now, he talks about focused attention a lot in detail. And what he says is that every time you bring your attention back to your breath, it's like bringing your attention back to the present moment when you're in a sporting situation. This does not only help you to give your best in that moment, but it also helps you to let go of mistakes, because a big part of meditation and mindfulness is self-compassion, and self-compassion works very well when it comes to letting go mistakes and accepting it and moving on to the present moment. One of the quotes I really liked, which was mentioned in this book, was "The only breath is now. The last breath is gone and in the past." And this reminds me of the flow experience. He talks a lot about being in the zone. He talks a lot about the flow experience and what that actually feels like for athletes. And the reason why I like this part is because it's in a very practical sense and very anecdotal sense of experiencing, the benefits of meditation. It's not just intellectual, it's more experiential kind of articulation that he puts into his writing. Another really good aspect of this book is how deep George Mumford goes into the principles of Buddhism. Now, he talks about a short fourfold path of, the Buddhist eightfold path. And what he says is that it's very important to accept that suffering is common. Suffering exists everywhere. But he also talks about how you can end suffering and what that means for athletes and what it means to not attach yourself to the outcome and to not be greedy and always want more and more and more, but allowing yourself to flow in the moment. And that is a very interesting part of the book. And the chapter is called Know Thyself. And this chapter is a very interesting chapter because it also talks about, in detail, about how you manage sporting distress in your own way. And there's a lot of experiential knowledge that you can get from this book and ideas you can get as an athlete for yourself. Now, he also goes a bit in detail into how there is a difference between, or a gap between, stimulus and response. A lot of mindfulness experts talk about this gap between stimulus and response, but what does it look like in a sporting sense? And that's what George Mumford brings into context in this book. And what he says is that when you feel sporting distress, which is when you feel a lot of anxiety, it could be performance anxiety, it could be a feeling of failure, it could be a lot of worry. So that is what sport brings anyway. Any sort of performance brings that into your life, but how you respond to it is a choice. And he goes into detail about this. And this is something that has really inspired me because I do believe there is a gap between stimulus and response. And it's important as an athlete to look at what that stimulus is for you. So if something's making you anxious, what do you actually do to respond to it? How do you respond to it? And how do you manage it? And how do you fill that gap? And the most interesting quote of the book is something I've put onto the slides for you to have a read. And he talks about how in this gap is where our growth generally lies. It lies into how we respond to these situations and the stimulus, that makes us anxious or makes us fear something. So this book is a really, really good read. I highly recommend it. It's one of the top 10 books any athlete should be reading, especially if you're into mindfulness or meditation. Even if you're not an athlete, I would recommend this book. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you really like this video, please do hit subscribe and hit like if you like it. Any questions, you can please put it down in the comments below. For anything else, you can contact me, email me. All my details are in the link below. So have a great week ahead and take care of yourself. Take care. Bye-bye.